What's up, Wellness Rebranded fans? This is Elizabeth. We have all been there. You search healthy dinner ideas, and the next thing you know, you've fallen into a Google rabbit hole of conflicting advice and second-guessing whether or not the recipe is healthy enough, and somehow end up ordering takeout. The Nourish Table solves this problem entirely. Every recipe is handpicked by me, which means it's actually delicious and nutritious. It comes with a done-for-you shopping list, so you're not left scrambling at the grocery store, and I give you ideas for how to repurpose each dish into multiple meals, so you can spend less time cooking. If you want recipes you can trust, come join us at the Nourish Table. ElizabethHarrisNutrition.com/recipe-club. I'd love to see you on the inside.
Welcome to Wellness Rebranded.
We know there is so much conflicting health and fitness advice out there.
And you're tired of the wellness fads, endless diets, and impossible standards that make you feel like nothing you do is ever enough.
You're ready to tune into your mind and body and feel empowered around health.
We're the healing trio here to help you redesign your relationships with food, fitness, and yourself.
I'm Elizabeth, registered dietitian and certified intuitive eating counselor.
I'm Maria, licensed mental health therapist.
And I'm Tara, personal trainer.
Together, we're changing the narrative on health away from diet culture, hustle culture, and toxic positivity and towards healthful self-care.
So grab your water bottle, get ready to laugh, learn, and grow, and let's start rebranding your wellness journey.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Wellness Rebranded. You are catching us off of a really good belly laugh, unfortunately at Tara's expense, but nonetheless, we are here. We're here and ready to bring it all for you today. And guys, have you ever had somebody make a comment about your body that really stung?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us?
Actually, I have one recently, and it wasn't about my body, by the way. Can I share a different one?
Sure.
I mean,
take us off topic 3 seconds in. Go for it.
I promise it's related. I super promise, okay? It's related to this. I was at a party, like an award ceremony kind of thing. And it's, like a fancy venue, and you go and get your food, like from the buffet or whatever, and you bring it to the table. And then I come back with my plate and I sit down, and the guy next to me says, "Wow, that's a lot of food."
Oh, this is a food comment.
And I was like, yes, it is. And I'm going to eat it so happily. FYI. I mean, I don't even know if that's a lot of food, but it's what I'm going to eat. But anyway.
Yeah, like, what's the point of a comment like that? What
I have
is that
no
to
clue.
Make the person feel?
I have no clue, Elizabeth. I have no clue. Actually, I do have a clue. Probably for him, it is a lot of food because he has, all these beliefs that we have been trying to debunk on this podcast, and then you judge from how you judge yourself sometimes, right? So it's like for him, that's something that he prohibits himself, or a self-talk that he constantly feeds from, and then he needs to say it out loud to other people. But guess what? It's not my self-talk, and I don't have those limits in my life.
And also, I guess it's the belief that that's a socially acceptable comment to make about how much food or the types of foods that someone is choosing. And somewhere along the way that got normalized, but it's really not okay.
It's not. It's social disability. What is it? I don't know. No. Okay. Your social skills need work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I've shared this with you guys before, but I'm going to share it again because I think it's interesting. Right when I was getting ready to get married, so my 13-year anniversary is coming up this week. So, 13, 14 years ago, I was having my dress custom made. So it was made to fit me and not like I had to squeeze into something off the rack. And I was at some sort of social for church, and there was cookies and crackers and charcuterie, just finger foods. And on my plate, I put an array of all the things. And this woman who I had never met before was like, "Oh my God, aren't you getting married in a couple weeks?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "And you're eating cookies and brownies?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Are you not worried about fitting in your wedding dress?" And I was so shocked at that comment. I wasn't even anti-diet culture at that point. I was just living my life. And I like looked at her and I was like, I'm getting the dress made to fit me, not the other way around. And she looked
It's
at me
amazing that
like,
you knew to say that, even like at a time when you were in like still in diet culture mentality.
yeah, I think I've been like, edging towards anti-diet culture for like a very long time. But that was my comment to her. And she looked at me like, I can't believe you are not doing the time-honored tradition of, hating and starving yourself into a
Disordered
wedding
eating.
dress, right? Like everybody at the table looked at me and they were just kind of like, wow, that's crazy. And
Yeah.
I remember leaving and thinking like, is that crazy? And obviously it must have been, because here I am 13 years later still talking about it.
Right. I think that's the point about body comments. So the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because people ask me all the time as they're going through their journey of making peace with food, making peace with their body. But like, I don't know how to respond to people's inappropriate comments. Like now going through this process, I understand the comments are inappropriate and wrong, but I don't know how to address them. And so it ends up being conversations that happen a lot. But I think it's important to point out that the conversations happen both ways. Like I can think back, well, and that they stick with you. Like I vividly remember comments that were made about my body when I was probably still a teenager, right? And those landed and they stuck. And I still think about them from time to time. And I've had the comments work both ways. Like I've had the comments of, at a time in my life when I was definitely in a smaller body than I am now, people making comments about that I was too thin, I must be unhealthy, I must be this, I must be that. And then I've had the comments like now going through perimenopause and menopause where people have made comments about gaining weight. And so it's like, I think just really important initial part of the conversation to recognize like it happens all around, right? Like it's not just comments happening in one direction or another. They happen in every direction.
Yeah, totally. I think we forget that in the conversation a lot. A lot of my examples come from like, I've been in a larger body like my entire life. So I've never had that other experience, which I think is pretty common for people to have one or the other, but not usually both. And I think that we forget that like, we shouldn't be commenting on people's bodies, like regardless of their shape or size. It's hurtful both ways.
I'm thinking, like, for example, growing in a Latin culture, I didn't think of it until I moved to this country. Like, you get so normalized and part of your day to day that you don't question it. It's like that lady talking about you eating before your wedding. She's heard that so many times and she's been told that so many times that that's the way it is. You don't question it, right? You just go with it. But now, after I moved here, I paused and I was like, hold on a minute. This is not a good pattern. And now that I feel that I'm kind of on the other side of things, I see it on my friends, on my Latin friends. Well, I see it on other friends too, but a lot in the Hispanic culture, that commenting about bodies before anything else. And you're like, wow, you can be immersed in all that and not even realizing that it doesn't feel good, that is not appropriate, that you have so much more than your body. It's like, what happened with my intelligence and my humor and my smartness and all that? Why we're not commenting on that? Right? But we don't.
You know what? I think of that too. That reminds me, when I was in high school, I was an exchange student in Costa Rica. And Costa Rica is one of my favorite places on earth. The people are so friendly. And also in typical Hispanic fashion, comment on bodies frequently. And so I was in high school when I was there. And so I was in a fairly small body. And we walked a lot in Costa Rica. Walking is like the main method of transportation. So I was like very active, very thin. And then when I came back to visit about a year after I'd moved home, everybody was like, ay, que gorda. Like, first thing they said when they saw me was like, ooh, you are fat. And I was just kind of like, oh, like, yikes. Like, I immediately paused to be like, should I not have come to visit until I lost a few pounds? Like, that was my gut reaction. And it just so happened that one of my neighbors was standing there. He's a couple years older than me, and we were very close when I lived there. And he was like, yeah, but que rica que estás, like, look how sexy you are. And like him jumping in like that quickly made me be like, okay, cool, I'm good, But it sucks that it took someone else validating my body for me to be like, oh, okay, I am okay here.
Do you know something that has hurt me in the past few years thinking about that Hispanic thing? My mom, for example, who I love to death, she cannot see other people's stuff that is not their appearance. She just can't. And you try to talk to her and say, Mom, how is that helpful that you see that person and the very first thing that you mention is something about their appearance? And truly in her mind, she's helping. Like commenting about it is like, well, because maybe if she doesn't know, it can help her. And that in my brain is like a short circuit, right? It's like, like error. Like, I can't.
Quite certain that person, everybody knows what their body looks like, right? Like we all have mirrors.
But in her head, and we had this discussion last time when one of the last times she was here visiting, I'm like, how is that helpful? Like, how do you not see that you made that person uncomfortable with your comment? Look at her response. It wasn't like, oh, thank you. I was so waiting for a comment like this for my life to be better and for me to wanna do whatever it is that you think it's better for me in my life, right? Like, what? So we have to be very careful that the things that we tell other people are usually coming from our own lens and our own perspective on life, our own stories, not necessarily the other person's.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that I say to people all the time. It doesn't make it hurt less, but it is helpful to remember it, which is it says a lot more about the person making the comment and their relationship with food and themselves and their body than it does yours. And you just constantly have to remind yourself of that. And something else you said, Maria, made me think that sometimes there's just the overtly rude, inappropriate, mean comments, but other times they're a little bit sneaky and it can almost feel like a compliment, like somebody, oh, you look great. Have you lost weight? Which may feel like you're complimenting someone, but you're kind of indirectly showing your
preference.
Yeah, your bias and preference and making a comment on kind of a different version of that person. And then sometimes I think it does look like it's veiled as kind of like helpful or I'm worried about your health. It's like comes through the lens of like the person trying to seem like they're actually trying to help you, although it's probably never actually helpful.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can take all sorts of, different formats. And I think I always also try to say to people, like, none of us know what we know until we know it, right? And so just like Tara, you referenced a minute ago when you were stuck in diet culture, like there's all been times when we were all kind of stuck in it and impacted by it and didn't see the harms of it. And like I try to, as much as possible, have compassion for the people that are making the comment without absorbing the harm of it, right? As like they don't know what they don't know, which then makes me think about Evelyn Tribole, which if you haven't listened to our episode with Evelyn, you should definitely go back and do that in January of this year. But Evelyn taught me something when I was going through the certification for becoming an intuitive eating counselor that has just sort of stuck with me. And it's basically like deciding how to respond to a comment like this will be different for different people, right? The short answer is there's no just one blanket response that's going to work for every person in every scenario. But like a lens I often filter it through, is this person reachable and teachable? And that really came from Evelyn. And some people aren't. They're so far stuck in diet culture, weight centricity that they're just never going to understand what you're talking about. And they're not in a place to see a different perspective. And so for me personally, like I choose not to put my effort into those people. I just try to let it go and walk away.
Hey friends, we are so excited to officially invite you to our next Wellness Rebranded retreat. Join us on Saturday, October 3rd at the beautiful Hidden View Farm in Crownsville for a day designed with so much intention. Expect meaningful conversations, practical tools for your emotional well-being, delicious food, laughter, connection, and time to simply breathe and be present with an incredible community of women. Women who joined us for our last retreat told us they left feeling lighter, more connected to themselves, and that it was exactly what they needed. We hope you will experience that too. We like to call it an emotionally cozy day, and we would love to spend it with you. Visit the link in our show notes to learn more and reserve your spot. We can't wait to see you in October. Okay, hold on. Let me question that for a minute. I agree. But what happens, because I'm sure there's a listener thinking about this, what happens when it's a family member that you're going to see constantly and they're just rude? They're not teachable, they're not reachable, but that's when your boundaries come in because I don't want to, like there's also a point that says, listen, you know what? I've noticed that every time we get together, you have a comment about my body or my appearance. I don't like it. So I would appreciate that, when we see each other, you keep those comments to yourself. And then if that's not the case, you even have the choice of how much exposure you want to have to that interactions. Because then, yes, if the person is not reachable and teachable, I don't have to suck it up either. I guess that is my point.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that's such an important point and a great way to frame it is where your boundaries come in. Like, how do you want to put that person in their place and how much time do you want to spend with them? And like, how are you going to consistently respond and walk away, basically? But then there are the people that are reachable and teachable. And I think that's where like the spectrum of different responses or potentially helpful responses comes in. And I often tell people, depending on your relationship with the person that's saying it and how reachable and teachable you think they are, I think a really simple, hey, like I've been, and again, like you have to be comfortable saying this and you won't be in every scenario, but I'm working on healing my relationship with food in my body. And those kind of comments are just like, they're going to set me back. Please don't do it. Or, I'm recovering from disordered eating or an eating disorder. And that's phenomenally unhelpful thing for you to say to me. Please, like, don't do it if you want to support my recovery.
I think that like polite but firm approach is so helpful for so many people. Like, oh, I'd rather not talk about my body, or I focus on how my body feels and performs, not on how it looks. I'd rather not talk about that. There's so many more interesting things happening in the world right now that my body ranks very low on the list.
Yeah. So like changing the subject essentially and redirection, right?
Yeah.
Like I also think it's sometimes just, you know what? When we talk about people's bodies, because I think a lot of people don't think about this. Anytime you make a comment about your own body or you make a comment about anyone else's body, you are always commenting indirectly on other people's bodies as well.
Yes. I think as a parent, I've become so much more aware of this because it didn't really like cross my mind before. But now that I'm a mom, like I don't want my child raised in diet culture and I don't want him thinking that bodies are the most interesting thing people can talk about. So anytime someone like says something to me about me in front of me or whatever, I usually like use parenting as an excuse of like, oh, hey, listen, I don't talk about bodies around my son. I really want him to grow up with a healthy body image. Like, please help me on my quest to be a good mom, And usually people are like, oh, okay. Like they're surprised by it.
That's an awesome response.
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are definitely times where I want to be like, look, dude, and like lay it on the line and say something horrible back to them or whatever. But it's like with the people, like Maria said, the family members that I have to see regularly and things like that, like using parenting as an excuse and also just polite but firm or redirection is usually less of a scorched earth way to go.
Yeah. And I sometimes think that snarky responses are called for, like a really direct, wow, I can't believe you thought that was an appropriate thing to say. Or
yes.
What a rude thing to say to someone. Or wow.
Super like you really just said that out loud?
Yeah.
Or even like, I'm sorry, what's your intention with that comment? What do you mean? Like,
it's such a great therapist way of responding. I'm going to respond with a question that gets you to think really hard.
No, but it's true. It's like, I'm sorry, what's your intention really with that comment? Like, what's the goal? Because I would be curious, like, is it to hurt me? Is it right? Like, come on.
Yeah, it reminds me, I'm trying to think of how I can tell this story without throwing anyone under the bus. So I was talking to someone recently who was relaying a conversation that they'd had with someone else. And it was about, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it had to do with like having children and whether the person was going to have children or not. And the person who was telling me the stories was saying like, I said something really stupid that I just would normally never, ever say, which was like, well, if you're thinking about it, you basically better get on it because you're not getting any younger, kind of. And she happened to say it to like a couple. And one member of the couple was basically like, thank you for your advice. And just like totally shut it down. So I was like, okay, first of all, awesome that
Yeah.
somebody jumped in with that. And second, yeah, like, what were you thinking? Why did you say that? It was out of character for the person. And she literally was like, I honestly don't know. Like, I walked away thinking, why did I say that? Like, I would never normally say that. I don't even care. Like, I don't have a stake in the game. Like, I don't know what that was about.
I also think her response was interesting, or their response was interesting, of like, oh my God, I walked away feeling like, why did I say that? If you do say something stupid that after you said it, we're like, oh my God, it's totally acceptable to be like,
Correct.
oh, I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry. Forget I even said that. Anyway,
Yeah.
how are these hors d'oeuvres? You know, like totally like admit that you messed up and that you don't know what you were thinking, you know, and then like move on. This is
I
not
agree.
the end of the world, you know.
And here's the other thought that came when you were talking, Elizabeth. Like sometimes we know the comment is uncomfortable and we don't like it, but how hard it is sometimes to open our mouths and speak up and say something about it, right? That's the other thing, because then that's when our things come up that we say, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to damage this relationship, or I don't want to be confrontational, or I don't want to have this hard conversation. And that's the other half of the story. I was actually remembering you and I, Elizabeth, were at a
Did I say
party.
something inappropriate?
No.
Okay. Never.
Yes, and I'm going to tell our whole listeners about it.
Everybody who's listening.
The whole US, every single state that listens to this podcast now will know. No, you and I were at a party. And you and I were talking to this person, and this person was jokingly like, oh, yeah, I got on a plane. And then I saw this person that was overweight. And I don't know why he was mentioning about people being overweight and getting on a plane and stuff like that. And he was like joking, da da da. And in my head, I didn't like the comment, but I was like, I'm not going to say anything, right? Like, it's like joking. Oh, you did. And I was so proud. And I was like, learn, Maria, learn. Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't remember what I said.
No, you said, hey, so and so, that's not nice. That's exactly what you said. You said that what you're saying is not nice.
I remember. That is what I said.
That's what you said.
That's not nice.
And I remember it was like a teaching moment, because I also thought about it, but I didn't have the balls to open my mouth and say something, and you did. And I was like, okay, learn and do, right? Because that's one way to educate people and maybe, put a mirror on what they're saying and maybe bring that awareness of, no, we don't need to accept these comments and keep normalizing them because they're not okay, and they're not.
Agreed. And I do remember it was like slightly uncomfortable after I said it, but I bet that person won't make a comment like that around me again, at least.
At least not in front of you. Yes, agreed.
Hopefully, maybe not in front of other people either, but
you would hope.
Dude, I love that you did that. It's sometimes hard to speak up in the moment, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It is
totally
really
agree
hard.
with that, dude. Like,
I think another situation, like it's kind of related, is talking about people like commenting on babies or on bodies is
people comment on babies too. Don't do that either, okay?
Well, and they also comment on
ugly
bodies,
baby,
which tells you how early and it starts. But yes, is that when people are kind of celebrating weight loss around you, that is another thing that I find very tricky to navigate, even as a provider, because I never want to discount, especially if it's like someone saying it about themselves. I never want to discount what someone is feeling. And also, I don't want to feed into the narrative that smaller's, better, or that that needs to be celebrated. And that is like such a tight rope. But what made me think of it is like, I think over the years, I've become practiced at handling some of those situations in a way that is like leaning on that teachable element.
Mm-hmm. So what do you usually say, Elizabeth, when people are celebrating their own weight loss?
What I usually say is something very kind of generic, to be honest, which is like, I'm so glad that you're feeling good.
Yeah, I usually say almost that same thing, like, oh, I'm so glad that you're happy with yourself, something like that. So glad that you're feeling good about it.
Yeah. And if possible, I try to like direct it to like what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Not like the result, but the actions. So anyway, but I think hopefully that any other like responses
on.
jump out at you guys that you want to make sure we say?
No, I don't know if this is a good thing, but this is what comes to mind and probably what I would say. And again, you guys tell me what you think. But in a situation like that, somebody celebrating their losing weight, I would probably say like, oh, I'm happy for you if this makes you happy. Just FYI, I love you the same way and appreciate you so much, even with that weight on. You know, like with or without that weight, just so you know.
Yeah.
I love you. It's like, I don't know
And I
why.
think that that's great. I sometimes say something similar, which is like, you've always been awesome, no
Exactly.
matter what.
Yes. Like I feel like I need that extra touch at the end. I don't know why.
Yeah. So I guess the last like kind of thing that I would want to weave into the conversation is like, there's no getting around that. Usually these comments are going to sting and they hurt, or they just like get you hyper fixating on your body, right? Even if it wasn't necessarily a hurtful comment, now
Yeah.
you're thinking about your body maybe in a way that you weren't before. And especially if you're on this journey of trying to, work towards body acceptance, then that's like unhelpful, right? And so I think that's where, like offering yourself so much self-compassion that it's just really hard having a body in our culture. It doesn't matter what your body looks like. It's hard having a body. And that sucks that we live in a culture that, makes that to be true. And then also where some of like the nervous system work can be really helpful of like how you're going to regulate your own nervous system in that moment, and the self-care and some of those practices.
While you were talking, Elizabeth, it came to mind that so often it's what our body looks like, but it also can be people talking badly about the way their bodies are performing for them. And this came up for me in my water aerobics class last night, which, by the way, guys, if you're local to Annapolis and you want to take water aerobics with me, it's every Monday night. Message me and I'll give you details.
I want to come.
Yeah, anytime. So someone in the class wears hearing aids, and she took her hearing aids out last night. It was her first night there. And she goes, I won't be able to hear very well in the pool, so I'm going to stand close to you. And I was like, yeah, awesome. And now that I know that, I can demonstrate and make sure that you understand the things. And at one point, someone asked her something and she was like, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What? And they said it again. And she was like, oh, I hate my ears. I'm so sorry that this is such an imposition for you to have to work out with someone who doesn't hear well. And I was kind of like, well, hold on, time out. I realize you're not exactly talking bad about the way your body looks, but like, you don't have to apologize for your body here. Whether it's how you look in your bathing suit or how it functions. Like, we don't do that in the pool or anywhere where I am, really. Pool or otherwise. But I could see everybody else, which, by the way, everybody in my class last night was new. They don't know me. They haven't followed me. They don't know anything about my philosophies, whatever. But I could see everybody look at me and kind of just be like, what? And everyone just kind of visibly like relaxed.
I love that, because we don't hear it enough. You don't have to apologize or explain for your body.
Yeah.
Period.
And also, can I just say, out of all the like millions of years that I've worked in gyms where I've done like weigh-ins for people, like most gyms offer like a complimentary weigh-in basically whenever you want it. And to do that, you have to take your shoes off and stand barefoot on this scale, right? Women every single time will apologize for how their feet look. And men who might have like toenails falling off and dry skin everywhere and things that like, not that I'm saying they should apologize either, but might warrant an apology, step onto that scale and don't even think twice about how their grungy feet be looking. So I would encourage all the women listening to keep that in mind and channel like your man confidence every now and then if you need to.
We need to talk about that in the episode we're going to be recording about confidence.
Yeah, totally.
All right, you guys, I think that big takeaway that I would share from this is that there's no right or wrong way to respond to these conversations. You got to do what you're comfortable with, what feels good. Sometimes you might wish you said something else. Just remember, it's more about the person making the comment than it is about you. And I love Tara's mic drop moment of like, this is a space and a community where you don't have to explain or apologize for your body or who you are.
Okay, guys, if you liked this episode, I would definitely go check out all the way back in the archives, number 16, Rethinking Weight Loss Compliments, How to Focus on Pursuing Health Through Self-Care, Nourishment, and Kindness to Our Bodies, because we talk a lot about kind of the harms of weight loss compliments. And I think it dovetails with this episode really nicely. So go check that out.
Thank you for listening. If you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me on Instagram at coaching_therapist.
I'm Elizabeth. You can find me at Elizabeth Harris Nutrition or in my Facebook group, Health and Healing with Intuitive Eating.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Tara DeLeon Fitness. Guys, if you loved this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcast. It really, really helps us get the non-diet word out to the rest of the world. So please leave us a review.
Yes, thank you.